And it's not even that the beats are bad. It's just not what you want to hear Busta Rhymes rhyming over.
I'll be honest. I listened to this project, and when I was done with it, I was like, let me go back and listen to ELE 2.
So, what if I told you all that there's a legendary rapper, elite all-time great MC.
Okay.
He's always talked about you being on a united front with the younger generation. He's never been the person to look against or talk against the younger generation, always embraced them. He drops an album with elite producers, quote unquote, executive producing, maybe having 2 or 3 records on there. The album comes out and it sounds like
Hitmaker.
It sounds like a 23-year-old would love it and say OG went off and he snapped. But his older fans may not embrace it. What if I told you that album still can be important, even though it may not be good to the older listeners?
Why would it still be important?
The reason I'm saying it's important is because everything is on brand with what this rapper has done. And I do think it shows unity by the features and by him trying to, extend his longevity and bridge the gap. Now, if y'all heard Blockbusta, which I actually listened to, I'm talking about Busta Rhymes, obviously, just doing my story time. It's not for me, but I can also see why it could be received well. Are y'all following me based off what you heard?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was.
So I can't talk on it.
Yeah. I didn't make it all the way through it because I got a little annoyed with it.
Thank you.
With it being that when you tell me that Pharrell is a part of it, Timberland is a part of it, Swiss Beats is a part of it, I'm expecting to hear something different.
Yep.
So I'm going into this with an expectation, and I hate to do that, but when that's what your selling point of this album is, then of course I have to go into that with that same expectation. And it was a bunch of, it almost sounded like a mixtape because it was a bunch of remakes of old beats.
UGK remake was on there.
That's Bun B.
I mean, I'm sorry, Bun B. Yeah, Bun B.
And that actually was a dope song, the one with T-Pain and
that's the one that stuck out
with
to
the
me.
Baby.
Yeah,
I like that record. Yeah, I like that
song.
one. I like that one.
But after song after song after song, kept having that same pattern of being just a remake of a beat that's already been out. I was like, man, I think I'm kind of cool on finishing it. But I never made it through the whole album.
I actually listened to the whole record, and it's he talked about it in an interview, very club heavy. You could tell he was shooting for, as we say, records. Like he's trying to make sure that he had an album full of that old Busta energy and just out here really trying to get some records. And I thought maybe that's why there may have been a disconnect for me because I don't go out like that anymore. I'm not 22. So
I don't even think that's what it was.
Yeah, because I listened for those kind of records, and I wasn't finding them there.
But what I'm saying is I think part of that for me, sometimes when I listen to music, I have to be in a certain pocket or be in a certain vibe to listen to it. That's something that I don't know if I can see myself riding around listening to the majority of the records that I heard on this project. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're not good or they're not, up to date or whatever. I'm talking about for me. I didn't hear too many records where I could be like, yeah, I'll run that back. Maybe a handful. But I also get it. Like, I'm not trying to diss it. I'm just saying it's not for me. What you think, Jay?
As someone who was a huge fan of ELE 2, this is disappointing.
Oh.
But once again, ELE 2 was for me. Okay.
That's fair.
This is him trying to reach back and not be the old man in the club. And I get it.
Did he execute it though?
No, I don't think he did. And I think as soon as I heard,
he's still going to be the old man in the club regardless.
I mean,
because he's the old man.
But I remember I was concerned when I heard the joint with Coi Leray, and that was like kind of
I didn't need that.
I just thought, I see what they were going for, but this isn't it.
Cringe.
Like I would have much rather heard a remix of her song "Bops" with him on it. I thought that something like that would have went. But I'm listening to these records, and I see what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
but it's so hard because right now the energy is just so ratchet and so low down. And so like even when you try to do quality club records, if it smacks of effort, it sounds crazy to say that.
It's almost like he tried too hard, huh?
It's like, okay, this isn't going to work.
Record with his kids is fire. Love that one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Fire.
It's the one and the one that we talked about with the Baby and T-Pain.
Yeah.
Those stand out to me. But a lot of this other stuff, I'm like, yeah, this ain't it. You know, I'm once again, I listen to records for a couple of reasons. Like ELE was for me. Like I listen because I want to hear the lyrics. I want to hear the production. I want to hear something that makes me fall in love with hip hop again. You know what I'm saying? That's what I got out of ELE too. This record, okay, I've heard him say what he was going for, and I look at the playlist. I'm like, okay, or the features.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm looking for things that are going to work so I can freshen up the playlist in the club.
Feature heavy project, man, all the way down.
I'm hearing the attempts. It's a lot of swings and misses, and this is somebody who's from who was a Busta Rhymes fan, had ELE 2. Like I think when I did my year-end list was in the top 5 of that year that it came out. So I know what Busta's capable of, and when I hear this, I'm just like, eh. And I understand he said he was in a different place when he made that record.
He did.
The world was going through some crazy changes at that time.
Yeah.
He wanted to do something that was a little bit more fun and more celebratory. And if anybody can pull that off, it's Busta. But I don't know. Maybe I got to listen to it again. You know what? I hate saying maybe I got to listen to it again because
usually you don't have to say that.
Yeah.
Right.
But not for a Busta Rhymes album. I'll just say it out loud. I'm a little disappointed in this record because what he's going for, I just didn't get. Like there are some nice moments on the record, but not enough to kind of like swing me away from the times where I'm like, okay, you don't have to try this hard to reach back to the youth, if you will, because at the same time you are an elder statesman in hip hop.
Yeah.
And
very respected.
And we don't need, I love what he says in the interviews. I love what he said when he was, saying what leaders of the new school meant as not just the name of his group, but as a concept. I thought that was fantastic. And I think that's how the elder statesmen, like, when we talked about a couple weeks ago, what was it, Eric's sermon and Master Ace had to say?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
And we talked about that. And I think that the mindset that Busta has is the way we should be willing to embrace the youth,
right?
But at the same time, we can't pander to them to the point where we're off our square.
So that's where I think I would chime in. I didn't hear the project. I've been a Busta Rhymes fan. I've talked about that extensively on here. Maybe that gives my perspective a little bit of clarity or a little bit a unique perspective because I haven't heard this project because I'm not speaking from that angle. Right. I'm speaking just from the particular angle that Busta Rhymes shouldn't be trying. Nobody should be trying to make records that aren't them. Now, you said that these are still his type of records.
When I listen to it, there are elements of him, maybe his younger self or his more energetic, when he always references leaders.
I think it's still him.
It's him.
I just
but
think
something's not connecting with these records.
It's not
From what you guys are saying, it's sounding like he's trying too hard to make another type of record that's going to appeal to a specific type of audience rather than make a record that he wants to do and get those artists on his records. That's what it sounds like. I think it's a little different. I think he actually meant well by making this project, and I think he actually is in that space to make the album, but it's just
execution.
Man, when you involve those 3 producers that I mentioned and it sounds like it sounds.
So does this go back to prove me and Byron's point about
wow?
Well, I didn't look at the credits. I don't know who produced.
I'm looking at them right now, and by my count, Pharrell had 2. I believe Swizz had 2, and I think Timbo did the intro, and that's it. And there are 19.
But they're
joints on
supposedly the executive producers of this album.
So they heard and approved everything.
So it's a joint effort that is a joint. I don't want to say failure. But it just, to me, it's not hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just say this.
Where you're going,
I'll just say this, and maybe it doesn't factor into him particularly here, but I don't think that any artist that is like an elder statesman of what we would consider that as, and you're trying to reach the youth. I don't think the move is to try to make the youth's music. I think it's try to do you and bring the youth along with you.
It's the only way to do it.
And so if he is doing that, then cool. I haven't heard it. But if he's not doing that and he's more so trying to cater to what he thinks the audience wants to hear right now, I think he's going about it in the wrong way. So
I wouldn't say that's. It's so hard
anybody
because
and any artist that does that.
Production wise, definitely, because it has Hitmaker written all over it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's like, oh, I remember that beat.
If there's any validity to what Lone is talking about, where I'm following you, like it seems like a reach, feels like a reach. the production, to Terry's point, that's where it is. It's still Busta on the records, but if you wanted to point out one specific part of it, it's 100% the production.
So the production's just not what it needs.
It's 100%.
Because he's always selected really good production across the board.
Man,
I would agree.
It's not even that the beats are bad. It's just not what you want to hear Busta Rhymes rhyming over.
I'll be honest. I listened to this project, and when I was done with it, I was like, let me go back and listen to ELE too. Because I just wanted to hear the Busta that I like I said, I don't think people realize how good that record was.
ELE2 was fire.
Yeah. And I don't think
it was right on time.
It was right on time. People, it was one of those records that was like we needed at the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people listened to it in the way that they should have. Yeah. It was like when I revisited it after listening to Blockbusta, which I just couldn't get into.
This doesn't sound like anything I would want to listen to.
ELE2, I was like, this is even better than I remember. It's only a couple years old, but it's aged well.
And he misled me with some of the videos that he was releasing. He'd be in the studio, he'd be this fire beat in the background.
He dropped that snippet with over that Dilla beat a few years ago, and that never came out.
And I was like, oh, so this is what type of time he's going to be on. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's going to pop out whenever he pops out again.
Man, they be selling us fools gold.